Hey, and welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange. This is Chelsea, and I'm so happy that you are here listening. Truth be told, I don't really know where this episode will go, but I just know that I really wanted to get it out while it's still fresh. So, a couple of days ago, I was in a breathwork journey that my mentors were leading, and I went into it without any expectations, as I try to do with most of the deep therapeutic work that I go into. And the theme of this particular breathwork journey was expanding your capacity for bliss. And I wasn't quite prepared for what kind of came out from that. I didn't go into it trying to process anything in particular or have a profound breakthrough. I was just breathing. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't here anymore. And I'm quote unquote saying here, but I was back in the room where my stepdad died and watching him die. And so that kind of sets the stage for why I don't know where this episode is going. And I think that it's funny because when people hear me talk about breath work, most of the time, maybe they assume that it's all peace and clarity and feeling lighter afterwards. And sometimes it is. And sometimes it hands you something that you have spent literally years running from. And this particular breathwork journey was exactly that. I could feel my body trying to protect me. My entire body was contracting. My chest was caving in, my stomach was tight, my shoulders rolling forward, my hands kind of wringing themselves. And I kept having to consciously open myself and my posture back up when every single part of me wanted to curl into a ball. Now, what my body was physically doing was exactly what it was physically doing on the day that I watched my stepfather die. I can remember being in the room and my body contracting in those exact same ways as I was watching him die. And also when it was just the doctor and I and my stepfather's dead body, and she was trying to encourage me to come and touch him and say goodbye. And I couldn't bring myself to do that because I was obviously overcome with a lot of different emotions. And I heard myself saying in this breathwork experience and how I have these insights, because I'm not necessarily conscious, but I've got a voice recording on so I can take in any of the insights that need to be spoken. And I heard myself saying, I didn't know how to hold it. And then I just started crying. Not even just crying, I was wailing. Because it was true. I didn't know how to hold any of it. I didn't know how to hold watching someone I loved die. I didn't know how to hold the fear or the loneliness that I was feeling. I didn't know how to hold being the strong one. I didn't know how to hold watching my mom lose her husband. I didn't know how to hold everybody else's grief while still having my own. And I know that was a large part of why my drinking in 2019 was particularly bad. At that time, I wasn't drinking because I loved alcohol. And I wasn't drinking because I had no discipline. I genuinely didn't know what the fuck else to do. Nobody had ever taught me how to stay with that much pain. And so from November of 2019, I left it over and over and over again with alcohol, with work, with keeping busy, with I'm fine, with just pushing through. Because that's where we're praised for, right? Pushing through. Nobody ever says, hey, when your heart gets shattered, here's how you stay with yourself. And there was one moment in the breathwork session that felt like an absolute unraveling. I found myself apologizing to Tom, my stepdad. And I wasn't quite expecting that, but I just kept saying, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was afraid. I'm sorry I didn't tell you enough about what you meant. I'm sorry that I spent so much time taking care of everybody else that I forgot to just be with you. And that I wish I had held your face and told you how precious a man you are. I don't think I've ever actually consciously thought those things before, ever. But all of a sudden, there it is. Like, I really do wish that I had taken his face in my hands and told him, you are the most important man in my life. And I love you, and I thank you. And I remember in the breathwork journey, and my hands are in front of my body, and I'm, holding his face, or imagining myself holding his face and telling him that he is the most important man in my life, and I love you and I thank you. But instead I was surviving and I carried tremendous guilt around that for years without even realizing it. It wasn't guilt because I didn't love him. It was guilt because survival robbed me of presence. Alcohol robbed me of the presence I could have had in those last days. And that one hurts a lot to say out loud because, of course, I can't ever get that time back. Now, of course, I'm joking back tears now because like this is hard. Like this is to feel those kinds of things and to recognize those different parts of you is excruciating. But here's the beautiful part. At some point, I stopped looking at that version of myself with admonishment and frustration, and I started looking at her with total compassion. She was terrified. She wasn't weak or selfish. She wasn't failing. She was a woman watching someone she loved die without having any idea how to carry something that heavy. And so, of course, she reached for relief. Of course she did. And for the first time, I actually believed myself when I said to myself, I forgive you. Not that I got it all right, but because I finally understood her. I understood the woman that I was in that room watching that whole thing unfold. And now, given what I know, given the work that I do, alcohol wasn't the thing that I was chasing. I wanted distance, especially in the, like, again, my drinking career started in just the social, usual, typical way that people drink. And then it becomes a slippery slope, and then you're using it to find relief or to create distance. You want distance from the grief and from the fear that you have. You want distance from the images of watching somebody literally take their last breath. You want distance from the feelings because they're shit, that's awful. Because I thought that if I could just not feel it, I would be okay. But grief does not disappear just because you leave the room. It waits in your chest, your shoulders, your nervous system for years until one day you create enough safety to finally come back for it. And that is what I believe healing to be. Is not becoming somebody or someone who never hurts. Is about becoming somebody who doesn't abandon themselves when they do. And nobody ever taught us that. Nobody taught us how to hold heartbreak or to sit with fear or how to let grief move instead of trying to outrun it. We learned spreadsheets and budgets and Pythagorean theorems and leadership and parenting and shit like that, which is all important. But nobody says one day your heart is going to break and it will feel like the worst thing in the world. And here's what to do when it does. And that is a large part of the work that I do now. I always thought that I taught breath work, but I don't think that I do. I think I teach people how to stay in the room, how to stay with themselves, how to stay with the feeling long enough that they realize that they are actually capable of surviving it. Because if there is one thing that breathwork has taught me, it's that the feelings I spent years trying to escape were never trying to destroy me. They were just trying to be witnessed. And maybe that is what all of us have been looking for all along. Because now I relate to my body in such different ways. I breathe to feel myself and to hear myself and to listen to myself when I spent so long ignoring it because I didn't have containment. And breathwork is exactly the containment that I needed. And breathwork became that vehicle. It got sensation and emotion moving again. Because I remember how out of control I felt. And this seemingly simple, I don't want to reduce it to simplicity, but the seemingly simple modality has literally changed how I relate to myself and to the emotions that I carry and how to move forward when life rocks me. And I know that that won't be the last significant heartbreak that I suffer. I say to my clients all the time, and to myself, bad things are going to happen. Good people are going to die. It's how you deal with all of it that makes the difference. And I am so relieved that I have such a effective and sustainable way of dealing with these things. And in the days since the breathwork journey, the idea of how open and how light I feel is remarkable. Again, when I think back to that day and the grief, the overwhelming loneliness in not having anyone to hold me as I watched him die, and the regrets that I have about that day and the days leading up to it, and I regret how much I drank during all of it because I didn't know how to hold it all. And because I do know now how much alcohol robs you of presence. And I regret about how much I drank after that because I didn't want to feel any of that. But I'm so grateful that I have been given such a distinct opportunity to be literally transported back into that room on that day, to feel my body contracting exactly as it was doing, and to soften, to be with myself, to see myself, to offer myself compassion and understanding for surviving the only way that I knew back then. I was also able to visualize Kev being there with me that day. Instead of me being by myself in a room where everybody's holding each other, I was able to visualize him being there, holding me and protecting me. And I was able to be, and to visualize being unafraid to take my dad's face in my hands and to tell him that he is the most precious thing in the world. and that I didn't think it was weird or funny, and that it was also like very instinctual, that was what I needed to do to close that particular loop in my system. So that's it. That was, it was a banger, as my mentors would say. I went deep, and on the other side of that, I just feel so much gratitude and relief. If this has resonated in any way, if you're curious about breath work and having experiences like this in deep therapeutic containers, please reach out, because I'd love to hold space for you and hold you through whatever it is that you're walking through. Because know that if I can help you, I will help you. And in the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.